My name is Ruby Bauske. I go as Ruby Flamingo out here, a name given to me by Rebecca, who once was head of sign crew and has a fine taste for art. Anyway, I started as a participant, I started as a public member in the 70s. It was a whole different world. And in 1980, a city councilor in the city of Eugene asked me if I wanted to volunteer at this event in the woods. And I looked at him and I said, Oregon Country Fair? Because I knew what happened out here. And he was a city councilor. And there was another city councilor sitting right over there. And it's like, okay, did I mention that I worked for the city? So I reported to these people. Anyway, so that was my first year as a volunteer. That was 1980. Volunteered with Info, a new crew. And we decided to be the public face inside the fair. And we made it our point to learn everything we could about every detail of this operation to help the public and the booth members. So the people had a resource like this one where they could say, what happens with, what direction is traffic on Sunday again, all that. So that's kind of where I came from. I've been volunteering since 1980 in one capacity or another. I was on Info for many years. Info is where my heart is still. And however, I was treasurer of the fair for a couple years back in the late 80s, early 90s. I wrote the check that was the last payment on the original Aero property. So I'm very happy about that. And then I worked media for a number of years, leading television crews and saying, don't look, I was saying to myself, don't look at these, bare-breasted women over here. Look, children, face paint. Did a lot of that for a number of years. And then I became an elder. And now I feel like my job, such as it is, to first of all enjoy the fair at the pace I can, and second of all, tweak. I actually helped somebody out at the registration, out in the lots at Maui yesterday. And I was like, so proud of myself. I had the right piece of information at the right time. But mostly, I come and I hang out with my friends, and I try to introduce people new to the fair from other parts of Oregon besides Eugene, to understand that there's something, it's not just Eugene. This is a much bigger movement in the state. And I try to bring people from the Portland area specifically here to enjoy it.
So why did you come back after that first fair? What was it that brought you back?
I met a man, only he was married. And he had a lovely child, a 3-year-old who looked like a fairy princess. And I met him actually, oh my God, right back here, oh my God, behind Upper River Loop Info. We were smoking a joint probably, which was very illegal, and even the fair didn't really like to see people doing that anywhere near the path. And so we were back there with his buddy, who I just met, and he started reciting Frank Zappa lyrics to me, and won my heart, but he was married. I found out later he was married. The next year, our crew got together, and he wasn't married anymore. And we worked with the map maker, Peter Eberhardt, to make the original map of the fair, the original figure 8. So that was our task in '81 when we first got to know each other. And we've been married for 27 years. It was the right thing. Who knew? But that's how I got involved. I got involved first as a city bureaucrat, following the lead of my city councilors. And then I met this guy who's quoted Zappa, and I just kept coming back. Because by then, Info was a crew, and they were my friends. We partied through the year. We had a debrief every year. It was very important for us as a tribe. There was one event that I want to talk about because I think I was the only person there. And every now and then I wonder if it really happened. I don't believe I was unnecessarily altered as far as drugs or drink or anything like that. It was an evening, so it was just dusk, and it was back in the mid-'80s when things were very dark and quiet here along the riverside and down toward what is now Maple Commons. So I was in what is now Maple Commons, which was then a little bit more wooded than it is now, and it was dark. There was nothing up there. It was before Cafe Lafayette got up there, many years ago. And I'm walking through, headed probably up here to see Peter at Upper River Loop, my map maker friend. Anyway, I'm wandering through, and these people emerge out of the woods. And they're dressed up like European clowns, like Perot with the peaked hat and the eye makeup. They're all in whiteface with this eye makeup and the classic clown outfits, and they're carrying these globes that have candles in them. And the globes felt like they were like 4 feet wide. They're probably maybe this wide, but lighting up the path as they went on these long bamboo sticks, okay? Pretty amazing scene to see. There may have been 10, 15 of them, maybe more. Felt like eternity multitudes of them. Anyway, they come out, and as they start to pass me, they're whispering. And I don't hear what they're saying. I don't know what it is. And by the time I actually sort of enter them, trying to get through them to get to my goal, I realize they're whispering the names of people. Sarah Jane so-and-so, Timothy so-and-so, Jonathan, Jack. Each of them just over and over reciting names. And I'm thinking, where am I? I'm at the country fair. I don't know these people. I don't know these names. And eventually I'm surrounded by them, right? This is a piece for them. And I'm surrounded by them, and one of the guys kind of gets close to me and he says, these people have died. And what they were doing is a piece to tell people about the AIDS crisis. And this would have been 84, maybe, 85. And these were the people who they knew who had died. And I was like, and they went through me. They disappeared toward main stage. I never saw them again. No idea who they were. But still. I eventually ended up back in info camp. And I told all my tribe, you wouldn't believe what I saw. I said, oh yeah, well, the fair is starting to do this after-hour entertainment thing. I said, I wouldn't call this entertainment. But it was pretty darn cool. So that is the one story I want to tell you. The thing I've noticed most about at least my own involvement is my own involvement's become more formal, where the fair organization has become more formal. So I'm now in this elder role where I don't have the regular shifts to work. I don't have the regular responsibilities, but I'm seeing people who are taking on more and more of that responsibility. And what encourages me is that many of these people are a lot younger than I am, and I want them to keep doing it. And I right now camp out in a public campground owned by Fair Family outside of the fair because it's quiet, I can get sleep, it's very family oriented, it's lovely. And I now I've been inviting people from Portland to join me at that campground. So we camp there, and the exciting thing to me is that it's quiet and we pay for the privilege. But when we come into the fair, it's like this whole universe opens up for these people in Portland who never knew. And now they're bringing their kids. And I want their kids to volunteer in a few years. I want their kids to be involved like our kids were, because they're younger yet. And they're enchanted. This is not like Portland. This is not like Vancouver, Washington. And so it's wonderful to see them want to get involved and encourage them in any way I can to do that. I'm winking and contorting myself because it's hard to separate the vision of the fair for me compared to the vision of the fair as a whole. So I'll start with me because I can. And that is, as I'm getting older, I'm getting more disabled and having more trouble getting around. And I'm having to learn how to do the fair differently. Instead of working, 16 hours of fair and setting up camp and making food for kids and all that, I don't do that anymore. I can't. And I'm learning how to do the fair differently. And I think that is part of the adaptability you have to have at every age of the fair. It's different when you're 19 than when you're 29 than when you're 68 or 50, whatever. Different when you have kids. And I'm very respectful of people who bring kids out here. When I was younger, I had no idea why people brought their babies out here. It's like, why? It's such a harsh environment. It's dusty, it's hot, diapers aren't everywhere. But I've developed a whole new respect. And technology has made it easier for parents to do that and safer for the kids. And so now I welcome the babies because they're going to be the ones who are going to volunteer at info someday if I play my cards right. One part is the fair's influence on the community culture as a whole. These days are like the days of the 80s when I first got involved in the fair of the era of Reagan, where we took our tie-dye off before we drove into Veneta. And we didn't put it on again until we got on fair property. Those were the days. And I feel those days coming back. There's a lot of separation and a lot of less feeling of we versus them. But we have the magic secret, which is we are them and they are us. And how do we promulgate that? without necessarily just the event. And that's why I look forward to philanthropy. I worked with the original endowment trust to make sure that provided some perpetuity in the neighborhood directly, because we are very land-centric. We are all of this particular piece of earth. Us and the band of the Calapuyas, it's our place. And how do we make the surrounding community expand that vision and expand that sense of fairness and oneness that we all share? In terms of in the world, as far as the event itself, people talk about limits a lot, and I think it's a self-limiting situation, where if it's so big that you can't turn a bend without seeing a bank of porta pots, it's not going to be that popular an event. But if it maintains some of the quality of crafts that we have, and we maintain a size that's actually walkable for people, then yeah. Because I'm seeing, the babies having babies, and they all want to be involved in what this is because this is home to them, as it is to me. I am really thankful. I found this place about 7 years after I arrived in Eugene. It took a long time for me to get out here. I was a hippie, but I wasn't going to identify with those hippies at all. And once I got on the land, I realized about the time Vegematics were starting in the 80s, the people who actually maintain the vegetation year-round, I realized, it's not just me thinking this is a special event, it's the land itself that draws me. And from then on, there was no question that I was coming back.
Thank you. Thank you for taking it.
You are so welcome.
And if there's anything else.
Good questions. Nope.
Awesome.
I am so good.